Hello everyone, I'm Nitsahone, and every Wednesday I bring you guys a Crack-A-Pack video. In these videos I open up a pack of the latest format, talk about every card in the pack, and which one I would first pick in a draft situation, pack one, pick one. These videos, my Crack-A-Packs, are sponsored by the Ether Hub, which is both a YouTube channel that you should check out because I post videos there as well, but it's also a gaming store these days, and you can go to etherhubtcg.com and check out the Hubundle subscription service that the Ether Hub has, and you pay a certain amount of money, and it's a very good deal for the number of packs you get, and you get packs of the latest set every month as a subscription service, which is pretty cool. So let's go ahead and open our pack. We have an Hour of Devastation pack here, and we're going to talk about it in the context of pack one, pick one. I will talk about every pack and, you know, every card in the pack, and we'll discuss which ones are good and limited, which ones aren't, and, you know, my experience with them so far in the format. Our first common is Mummy Paramount. It's a good card as a zombie payoff. A 2-mana 2/2 that gets +1/+1 anytime the zombie comes into play. Anyway it comes into play, it pumps the zombie, whether it's out of your graveyard or whatever, and that's nice. Mummy Paramount is not an exciting first pick, but, you know, there are some packs that are weak enough you might do it. Next, we have Frontline Devastator. This has been a little bit of an overachiever for me. I think I gave it a C- in my set review. It's more like a solid C. I mean, it's not a huge difference, but I find myself willing to play one in basically any red deck I play and feeling fine about it. Its ability to pump itself is nice, and the Afflict is nice as well in an aggressive deck. All right, now we have Unquenchable Thirst, which I think is now our first pick. We talked about this card a little bit last week in last week's Crack-A-Pack. It's overperformed a little for me as well. I think it's good even without deserts, and when you have deserts, which isn't that hard to do, it gets to be very, very good. And I would take it over Mummy Paramount or Frontline Devastator. Next, we have Bitterbow Sharpshooters, which is another card that's overperformed a little bit. I think I gave it a C in my set review, and now I'd say it's C+, maybe even B-. Turns out a 4/4 reach can block almost everything with flying in this format and kill it without dying itself, and that's pretty nice. Vigilance is great too because we play offense and defense. It's very hard to sort of race someone when they're just smashing you with a 4/4 and you can't really block it and you can't really attack through it either. I would still take Unquenchable Thirst over it, but it's close. Next, we have Wretched Camel. This pack is just filled with cards I think I underrated. And this is another one. I think I gave it like a C, even if you had enough deserts in your deck. And I think it's closer to a C+ if you have enough deserts in your deck. If you play this in the early game and you have a desert in play, it's going to almost always be a 2-for-1. And that is pretty great. Making your opponent discard a card, and also you get to kill an X2 when you block it or attack, or they block your Wretched Camel. And that's pretty nice. It does sort of have the downside of cards with Aftermath, cards with Embalm, and cards with Eternalize exist in this format. Sometimes your opponent will discard those, and it's not quite a 2-for-1 anymore when that happens, but it's still okay. I would still take Unquenchable Thirst. Next, we have Graven Abomination, which is really an abomination, and there aren't a lot of unplayables in this format, but this is one of them. Even in a deck, there's no reason to play this, really. Even if your opponent has cards you want to exile, there's way better ways to do it, and only being able to exile one card and they block it with a 1/1 or put a -1/-1 counter on it it's not worth it. So don't play Graven Abomination. Don't even cite it in. Next we have Steadfast Sentinel. This has been an underwhelming card for me. I give it about, I think, a C in my set review, and that's about where it stands. It's fine. A 4-mana 2/3 with Vigilance isn't good, and neither is 6 mana for a 4/4 with Vigilance. But what makes it a C is the fact that you do that with one card. So you get 2 cards of value. Sometimes you get a 2-for-1. You do have to invest a total of 10 mana. So it's not the best 2-for-1, but it's okay. I like these cards with Embalm. I mean, Internalize in this case, but I like Embalm too. Because the longer the game goes on, the more value you're going to get out of it. If you start flooding, at least you have this in your graveyard. It's a perfectly fine card, but I would still take Unquenchable Thirst. Next, we have Desert of the True. We talked about a Cycling Desert last week, and I'll sort of say again what I had to say about it then. Cycling Deserts are all really good. This is because they have the Desert subtype, which cards like our Unquenchable Thirst care about. They also have Cycling, which cards care about in this format. There's several cards that say when you discard or cycle a card. So that's already got some synergy with the set. And on top of that, just a land having Cycling is already great. Why? Because if you're flooding out in the late game, you can cycle these away. Imagine that every basic land in your deck had Cycling. That would be incredible. All your lands would be way better. And that's basically what you have here with the added bonus of the Desert subtype and the added sort of downside that it comes into play tapped. But that's sort of a wash in the end. In the end, it's just a strict upgrade over a basic land in your deck. and you should play multiple deserts usually. I wouldn't first pick one in this pack, but there are some packs where you would first pick a cycling desert. This just is not, just isn't one of them. So Unquenchable Thirst it is. Life Goes On is next. This is like an okay sideboard card if you're playing against someone who's really fling happy. It's like a hilarious response to fling because, you know, they think they're going to kill you and then you gain 8 life. You do have to have something else die before the fling for you to gain the 8 life technically, but, you know, that's the only place really that I would do it. All right, now we have a different card I would first pick. It is gold, but it's very, very good, and that is Bloodwater Entity. I don't love first picking gold cards most of the time, but this one is pretty good because it has so much upside. A 3-mana 2/2 flying with prowess is already something I'm on board with. On top of that, it has the ability to put a spell, an instant or sorcery from your graveyard on top of your library. So if you're getting back your Magma Spray or your Puncturing Blast, is that what it's called? Yeah. That's really good. So getting spells back is good. That's a lot of upside, and it also gives you another prowess trigger. So it synergizes well with itself. So I would take this over Unquenchable Thirst, even though it's gold. Next we have Crypt of the Eternals. This thing is kind of underwhelming. The only time I've played it is when I had Nicol Bolas and I wanted to play Nicol Bolas. So it was a nice mana fixing, but it's not even a desert. I don't know why they had to do this to us, but it's not a desert. They should have just made all the non-basics in this set a desert, and this is the only one that's not. And it's okay fixing, but it's basically a worse the Bluffs land that is a desert from Amonkhet that is a filter land but lets you add mana of any color. It's a lot worse version of that because it only adds 3 different colors and it's not a desert. The one thing it has that doesn't have is it gains you 1 life, but that upside is not very relevant unless you have Crested Sunmare or something, and then you should be jamming a few of these, I guess. But yeah, it's not a great land. Bloodwater Entity is still our pick. Torment of Scarabs again, which we talked about last week. To sort of summarize, I don't think this card's very good. The only place it's playable is in the most aggressive decks, and black is not always a color that's going to be the most aggressive deck, so taking it early isn't a great plan. Picking them up late when your deck looks like, you know, it's all 2-drops, 1-drops, 2-drops, and 3-drops, that's not so bad because if you're really damaging your opponent and they can't afford to pay the 3 life, that's when you get them. When they have no problem paying the 3 life, which is most of the time, it's bad. So keep that in mind. I don't like playing it most of the time. All right. Well, we have a rare that's going to be better than Bloodwater Entity or Unquenchable Thirst, and that is Pride Sovereign. This thing is amazing. It's basically a gold card, like our Bloodwater Entity, but again, it's worth the risk. It's not technically a gold card, it's mono green, right? But it has a white activated ability that's ridiculous. If you play this on turn 3, and you have white mana, and you're allowed to untap on turn 4, you have 5 power worth of cats in play. So that's pretty insane, because this becomes... Actually, it's more than that. Did I do the math wrong? Yes. You have 6 power worth of cats in play, because it gets +2/+2 from the 2 cats, and you get 2 cats who are 1/1 tokens with lifelink. It's very good. It's an incredible card. We do have a foil, and man, this is a good pack. Our foil rare, or not foil rare, foil uncommon is Sifter Worm. It feels like a rare. This thing's nuts. It's one of the best things to do in the ramp deck. It just wins you the game. Even if your opponent finds a way to kill it, the fact that you played a 7-mana 7/7 that gains you life and scries 3 in the late game is amazing. If they don't, it's going to be hard to kill, first of all. There aren't a ton of spells in the format that can kill it. There are some. But even if they kill it, the advantage you gain by scrying 3 in the late game, making sure you're not going to draw lands and stuff like that, and the life you gain is insane. And Sifter Worm can just end the game on its own. It's a 7/7 trample. And this pack, I think, is actually pretty close, because Pride Sovereign basically asks you to play 2 colors, and Sifter Worm doesn't. Sifter Worm's a mono green card, but it does have one caveat, and that is that you basically need to be playing a ramp deck. So while it's mono green and it doesn't look like it has as many things it's asking you for that Pride Sovereign does, it has about the same number of things. And in the end, I think Pride Sovereign's more powerful. They both can win the game, but Pride Sovereign can do it way, way earlier. So Pride Sovereign can just start running your opponent over on turn 5 or so, and Sifter Worm takes a lot longer to get rolling. So in the end, we do take Pride Sovereign. I wouldn't fault someone for taking Sifter Worm. That's a close pick. Let me know in the comments what you would pick. And remember, you can enter into a drawing to win all the cards in this pack and all the other packs I opened this month, plus the last one from last week. Just post in the comments below and tell me you like